See, already time. We were doing but it's still before the year. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. At this time, if you would all raise for the pledge. Daisy, would you like to come lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Daisy. Next is the roll call. The minutes will show that all 5 members are present. Moving on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make it.
First by Ms. Stewart. Is there discussion? Second?
I'll second
Second by Mr. Art. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into informational items, spotlight report. We were going to have the academic team here this evening, but with no school, they're not. So Ms. Vanover is here with the Boone County Solid Waste Services Supervisor, and she's going to recognize Stacy Freeman.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to come. Stacy, will you come up here for me, please? So every year, the Public Works does a competition for the contest where you're trying to promote recycling. Obviously, our goal is to educate the community, and we've got to start with our kids too. And so we do a calendar every year that we drive to each of these public and private schools in Boone County, deliver the information, and we do an art contest and a slogan contest. So this year, Daisy, I would like to present your certificate for you. She is the month of February slogan winner, and she said, "Make the bins neat to keep trash off our street." And so, congratulations. We had over 300 entries for the art aspect of it, and also a separate 300 for the slogan. So we had winners from each of the schools throughout. We have a committee that makes the selection, and very proud of you, so nice job. There will be a box of calendars in the back. Go ahead and do this one here. That shows all of the selected winners throughout the year. It has the artwork as well as the slogan for each month and the cover winner on it. And there are plenty of them back there. Please help yourselves and distribute them anywhere you see fit throughout the school district. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
For some of our guests who may not be aware, Daisy is a budding actress and has already appeared in several movies and TV shows. And actually today, while many of her classmates were probably in bed sleeping late, she was in Cincinnati auditioning for a part for a new show with Nickelodeon. So Daisy is a very busy young woman, and we're very proud of her and what I'm sure she will do in the future as well.
At this time, if you guys want to go, feel free. You're very welcome. You're welcome.
He's a cute 4-year-old.
Okay, moving into the principal's reports. Rob?
Yeah, let's see, the one thing I wanted to highlight on this sheet was just kindergarten screening is coming up, kindergarten registration is coming up, here week after next, so this is always a big time for us to kind of get the word out, word of mouth, social media, it all works, and we just try to get as many, of our kindergartners registered at this time as we can, so that we can start making plans for this coming school year, 2019-2020. So that was the main thing off that page. I don't know, Carrie, if you put all of the attachments in there.
Yeah, what would you like?
Maybe that next one then with the picture. I'll just go through this real quick. Not going to read it, but this is a picture of some of our staff members. You don't see Mr. Patterson in there, but he was the one taking the picture, but we recently did a school visit where we were kind of looking at some best practices and taking a look at how they use their map data. You can read about it there, but they had a great trip. We're already starting to see a few things materialize because of that trip, so it's time well spent. We feel. Next one here, again, we're not going to read through all this, but I did want to point out the first part there. I kind of had to do some old-fashioned cutting and pasting on this to keep some data private, but the graphs that you see that say 24 responses, those were our staff member responses, and then if you slide on down, you'll see some that jump up to about 120 responses. Those are parent responses. And so what these are some of the questions that we sent out to teachers and parents regarding our parent-teacher conferences that we had last fall. So pretty overwhelmingly, people were fairly happy with that and would like to see that again. So we will use this and more to kind of help guide next year's version of this. And so worthwhile venture. Part of our PD plan for this year, and most likely it will be for next year. So, any questions other than that? If you'd like to go through it, we can go through it.
This is great. I love seeing this. I like in the earlier graphs on there where it showed that the teachers learned something very useful about the kids in their classroom that they didn't know before that. It's
Right.
such a high number. I mean, that's fantastic to see, because you always think about parent-teacher conferences like, it's really for the parents to come in and get to know each other, but I love seeing that our faculty found it very useful too.
Yeah, I think they did. The other parts that aren't on there are we have some comments for each teacher as well, just a spot where you can put in just narrative comments. And there was a few other things in there that I didn't include, but most of that stuff I thought was pretty interesting and something you could easily see and decipher. So yeah, it was a great couple of nights overall.
I did have a question. The data, did you collect this from the parents the night of the event, or was it afterwards?
It was afterward.
Okay. Did you have a pretty good percentage respond?
I felt like we had a pretty good percentage. After some of the discussion post-conference night, we had talked about maybe having people do like an exit survey, literally an exit survey as they leave. Another thing that came out of this was folks were, especially from the teachers, they wanted this to do this either right at a report card time, preferably the first quarter report, because some of the information they were discussing with folks they already kind of knew, and so to give them some more talking points for the evening. But yeah, that was discussed.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Morwessel?
You have the map data report again. That's the winter map data from December. Again, a little different this year. We have subgroups in there, and we're just comparing K-Prep predictor for novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished to how they did last spring. So we're continuing to go back to last spring to see how students are growing. So you have the reading and you have the math on the second page. Sometimes we see a dip in the scores in winter. We're having discussions about that. We had a data PLC last week with the teachers. They had about a month to look over the data spreadsheet that I put together, and had some good conversation there, kind of talked about the timing of MAP and just opened up some discussion there. So that'll be ongoing. But again, we use the data as a starting point to see where kids are individually. This just gives us the whole picture. I can't present the individual students' results, but we're constantly looking at that, looking at the growth from spring on that. So really trying to focus a little more on the gap groups, free and reduced lunch and special ed groups with that data. And then on the report, we had a lot of things going on: science fair, spelling bee, academic team, select band. So a lot of kudos there on that sheet, which is good. Ms. Gosney does a great job with our science fair this year. Ms. Schlim did the spelling bee. Ms. Solkovitz is our academic team. We had a lot of good things in written assessment. Her being a writing teacher, she was proud of that. And again, on the second page, there are several Northern Kentucky select band kids. One whose dad was nervous, but shouldn't be anymore.
I don't know who that was.
I don't know, second one down. Any questions?
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about one of our activities on our school improvement plan, which is one of our activities for the GAP group. I'm sure many of you are aware that some of the larger schools in different counties did not get the other status because they couldn't meet the GAP group needs. That's a real big concern. So one of our activities is sessions with the teachers about the GAP group kids and how we can focus on that. And that's just kind of what I wanted to spotlight.
At the presentation.
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Mr. Interject wherever you feel necessary. So we developed an agenda on the GAP group, and the teachers that we focused on. Our basic assessment this year is how juniors do on the ACT in March, how juniors do on the on-demand writing. Those are kind of our two focuses with these, this primarily being the ACT. Then the other pieces, like the academic and career readiness, that's something we work on all year, and you guys know that with the ACT extensions and all those other interventions. But this, we're trying to focus on specifically on the ACT in March, because it doesn't matter how a kid does on the ACT any other time for state accountability, except for academic readiness. For accountability, for us, it's how they do on the ACT in March. So basically, the group teachers, by their planning period, we started this week, it continues through, well, tomorrow we're going to have to reschedule some though, like the snow day. But nonetheless, we give each teacher a fresh set of their rosters, and then we have a list of the GAP kids, and we just take a few minutes and have them highlight it. Just take the time to do it, who on their roster they have as GAP students. We went back to the presentation that we did back in the fall after state testing to kind of reiterate different pieces of the accountability, the scoring, the cut scores, and our demographic performances. And from there, I'm going to show you the rest of the stuff that we did. So Carrie, can you go on to the next slide, please? One of the slides that were an excerpt from our fall presentation, and one we revisited with the teachers of juniors, is that this past year was the first year they actually gave us cut scores on how a kid was scored as novice, apprentice, proficient, or distinguished based on the score they got on the ACT for that subsection. It's the first time. We've never seen it. We didn't even see it until after the reports came out, the scores came out. As a reminder, and that's not because we weren't paying attention. Okay. All right, so anybody who's a novice, they get a 0. An apprentice student gets a 0.5 point. A proficient student gets 1 point, and a distinguished student gets the 1.25 points. So benchmark for the state of Kentucky for reading is a 20. which is why I believe they have 20 as the proficient mark. Benchmark for mathematics in the state of Kentucky is a 19, which is why I think that they have that as proficiency. There is no state benchmark for science, and you see this drastic jump. That's because that's a national benchmark. Notice there's no English. Maybe next year. But this is what they gave us for this year, okay? All right. So, we revisited with the teachers, and we've only had a couple sessions, and I think our session with 4 teachers on planning period was very good, because we had some on math and some on science. It was a very good discussion. But we first start, and this is all in our Google Drive in our data house. It shows how each class is done. For people that are new, or just new here tonight, I know you're interested to know this. We give a mock ACT to all freshmen. We give the same mock ACT to all sophomores prior to their junior ACT. It's an authentic ACT, and then we kind of talked with the teachers about the data of each class. Here's the class of 2019 that will graduate this semester. Kind of shows how they did on the sophomore, how they did on the junior, and their highest average right now. You'll see that in just a minute too. And the other classes. Ready for the next slide, Carrie? Once we talked about the groups as a whole, we then gave the teachers the data sheet of the junior class. And of course, the names are not on here, yes? But basically, it shows how each junior in the current junior class, how they did on their freshman ACT mock, that's this column right here, how they did on their sophomore mock, and what their highest official ACT is right now, if they've done additional testing, or if it happens to be from one of these mock tests. Green means that they have hit the benchmark. Red means they are not at the benchmark yet. This was a very good discussion because we asked the teachers to kind of look at their gap group kids first, to kind of identify, are they already at proficiency? Are they close to proficiency? Are they close to being distinguished? And we started with the gap group kids, but then it evolved into more of all kids, which was kind of what we were hoping was going to happen. Even though there's that subcategory of gap group, we want all kids to meet those benchmarks. This was powerful. It's in the Google Drive, but taking the time with the teachers on their planning period to actually look at that and talk about it, I thought it was very helpful, and I thought one of the best parts. What do you think, Nash?
Yeah, I think anytime you can put hands on the actual paper, see their names, and then we identified like what we call a bubble. Who's on a bubble? Where can we move somebody from a novice to an apprentice to a proficient, to try to get that point up there. And then we talked about targeted instruction technique and things that we learned at the novice reduction seminars and stuff like that we could bring back to the teachers.
Right, which leads us to our next slide, which from there is exactly what we talked about. What can we do to help them move to their highest potential? The bell ringers for the class, we only have about 6 weeks to the March 12th ACT. So we talked about, those effective bell ringers in those classes of juniors. We are having the seminar extensions right now for juniors that want to help. And we're going to bring back the ACT boot camps. This was prior to when me and Mr. Nash were in administration here. But they did this like up to the ACT. All juniors have received information on that, and it's been emailed to all the parents with the registration deadline of next week. Some of our language arts teachers, our social studies teachers, they want to work on some of the reading passages that are authentic to their subject matter, but they also want to duplicate the same reading strategy instruction they've gotten from the language arts teachers, the English teachers. So we're setting up meetings for them to work together. And we talked about the online. Did I do that, Carrie?
I think hit the X in the middle.
Okay. So, there we go. Okay, so we have online resources as well. We talked about that. We had some people in the room that had used it and wanted to share how to use it. We're devoting our early release time and some of our Wednesday mornings for people to work on this together to get those paths set up. It was just really, it's been good. So I think that's the last slide, isn't it, Carrie?
Yes.
So that's what I just want to kind of talk about, that part of our school improvement plan that we are we are working through. You have any questions on that at all? Okay.
I had a couple comments, just, it's great to see the growth, so it's like tremendous growth,
Yes.
especially at the lower half of that chart, you see probably 90% red to something
Yes.
that's greater than 50% for sure, but
Yes.
it looks great, so that's great. It just really speaks to the work that you guys do in the school to progress the kids, and it's fantastic. I love that you're doing the ACT boot camps again. and
Yeah.
Just all the thought that went into, I saw like, I think there were 9 different best practices that you guys are exploring now,
Mhm.
so that's fantastic,
Yeah.
and I just think it's gonna keep getting better.
We hope so, and thank you for that. We also this year are gonna bring, once those score reports for the mock ACT, we're gonna have parent sessions for that, if they wanna come and pick up their scores, and we'll talk, we're gonna have a morning and an evening session. And don't think that we don't appreciate those mock ACTs, they are provided at your permission. So that funding through that has been, has been kicked back to us, so we do appreciate that. Because those are authentic, and I think it's the best preparation, for the kids. So that's a lot of money, but I know it's well worth it, especially how we use the data, and I think the parents appreciate it too. Any other questions?
I have one for you, but not about your presentation that you
Yes.
gave. So just curious, the Ignite
Yes,
program,
yes.
do we have a lot of students, or do you know yet, that have applied, that have been accepted?
So.
Do you have a radar on?
The Ignite Institute is a new public high school that's opening in northern Kentucky as an effort between the Boone County and Kenton County schools. Heather was there at the presentation the other night. Our students are eligible to apply. One 8th grader I know has already applied and been accepted, and I think that was a mistake on their end because he really is our student but lives in Kenton County. He's an out-of-district kid, so I think he's got through, right? I don't know how many will apply or be accepted. I think I'd say Laura was at that meeting the other night, I'd say there was about 25 to 30 parents there.
Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but the deadline to apply was February 19th.
It's
Is that
fun,
right?
yeah,
So it's,
yeah.
It
We'll know by the
originally
end.
was December, and then
Right.
now, yeah, they moved.
December was for kids that were in Boone County or Kenton County schools. The regional application is going on this month for anybody outside of the region. So, I don't know. I
Yeah, I
don't
was
know.
just curious.
Yeah, I know that at the end of February, we should know, so we'll see.
I will say, once that data becomes available, I'll share that with the board in a private email, keep you up to date on where we are with that.
So, there are a lot of people staying and asking questions, and so, it'll be interesting to see that unfold though.
Yeah,
Thanks for helping me with the chairs.
no problem.
It was very nice when I looked up after talking to all the parents, all the chairs were already put away, so I thank you for that. I
No
appreciate
problem.
that. Okay, anything else? Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the construction report. I'm sorry. Construction report.
Alright, we've made some progress on the track. We, did the borings underneath the track this past month, and we got the results back this week. Everything seemed to come back normal.
But we know it's
That's good or
not.
bad?
Which is bad.
That's bad, yeah.
So we still haven't found the actual issue that's causing this. The weather hasn't really been cooperating for we're kind of going into the field turf now. We've opened it up and we're trying to get down in there to send cameras through our drains. We have a couple different drainage systems in there. We have the turf drainage, and then we have our storm drainage actually underneath that turf field. So we've had to dig all the way down, and there's like a 4-inch thick concrete slab that we're gonna have to remove in order to get down into it. And once we remove that, we'll be able to send the camera lines through it, see if there's any clogs or collapses or anything like that, as soon as the weather helps us out here, hopefully. The field turf isn't supposed to start until around May 10th, I think, is the scheduled start date for that. So we have up until then to kind of get everything together. So we'd like to find out sooner than later what our problems are. So we'll be working on that hopefully in the next 2 weeks if the weather gets back up like it's supposed to. We did our paving bids, they came in really nice, I'm sure you saw. I hope you saw. So I was really happy about that. might go on during that period as we're doing middle school renovations and stuff like that. I think they have 30 days listed on their contract to get finished. They might start a little earlier. We're gonna have to coordinate that a little bit with taking away this lot from them. They might have to seal that after the middle school renovations done. We'll have to kind of deal with that if it comes, just because of our containers for doing it. Early childhood, they haven't really made any progress outside, it's been a little cold. But the inside is all blocked up, so the walls are completely up now, and they're starting to do the VRF system inside, starting to get the hangers in and all the water piping in. Everything's looking good on the inside, it's just we're waiting on the brick. And this next month, they should have the windows up now. So it'll be, and then they'll get the doors after that. Hopefully by the end of February, it should all be completely sealed around. We did get our stuff back from Duke, so we'll be moving forward on that too, where they kind of messed up the engineers at Duke gave us a run around there. Did it wrong. But they have since fixed that, so we're moving on that now. Middle school renovations, we had a few meetings here recently about routing the ductwork the way they wanted to do it. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to do it that way, so we're going to have to make some changes. Everything should go okay, and it doesn't look like it's going to cost anything extra to make the changes. They're just essentially, it actually might give us a little bit of a credit because we're cutting some of the length on our ductwork. So that was positive. We'll see if it stays positive. Building inspector has to verify all that for us, so. That's pretty much where we're at on that. Any questions about projects going on?
Is the track gonna affect like the track and field season? I mean, are they gonna be able to run and hold meets or anything?
I would say, I wouldn't feel comfortable with them running on the condition of the track as it is, just because of the bubbles. Hopefully we get that worked out and get those fixed as quickly as possible. If they're running in the cold and we can't pull that back up and fix it and reseal those patches, that might cause an issue. I'm not quite sure on that one yet. Now, you obviously don't want to run around the track with hot spots on it because that's a kind of safety issue.
Right.
I'm hoping we don't have to do that, just that would not be good.
Any other questions for Jeremy? Nope, thank you, Jeremy. Next is the attendance enrollment report.
Okay, as you can see, we're in month 8 currently, or month 5, sorry, I looked at it wrong. So we haven't really. We're getting there. We talk about changing all the time. We didn't really move, obviously, this month, which is kind of interesting because we've had a lot of kids move out and we've had a lot of kids move in. And that's highly expected during January and after Christmas. So we've stayed about the same, and it's middle school. And with the flu season being here, I think our attendance looks really, really good.
Wow.
So the middle school is at 96.34. So that's great for kids being home in the winter. Questions?
Good job, middle school. Next is other, Dr. Baker.
Board members, I'd just like to introduce my mentor and executive coach, Dr. Fred Carter. Dr. Carter is here tonight in his capacity as my executive coach, and it is standard procedure that he visits every new superintendent during a regular board meeting. So he spends a lot of time on the road and attends a lot of board meetings. So Dr. Carter, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for all your assistance this year. My pleasure.
Anything else? No. I had one thing, real quick. I think most of the board members and Dr. Baker got an email this week from a parent with some children at our preschool. And she suggested, or she gave us some information about a conference. And so I think that's something we should probably, I think it'd be good to check into it. I think it would only be something that would be beneficial to those students as well as students to come, if it's something. So I just think that we should check into it, whether we send Caitlin, since you're over the whole area, as far as like special needs, or Kim or whoever is in charge of that kind of, like, you know, that you can come back and train everyone else, someone that could fill that role. But I think we should check into it and see, if it's something that's feasible for us to do. I don't know exactly who would cover that, because it's kind of splitting the areas there.
We looked into it, Rob kind of checked out, the prices and stuff that's in Pittsburgh. We currently have, probably 5 students total that have the apraxia, so, you know, just numbers wise, something for you to think about.
I didn't realize it was that, we had 5.
And Caitlin, you have spoken to that mother who sent the email, correct?
We have, yeah. I mean, the conference that our speech therapists do go to in Kentucky, the Kentucky Speech Therapists Conference, they have sessions on apraxia that our teachers are going to go to, and I've talked to them, and they are going to make sure that they attend those as well, but that's kind of just where we're at right now with that, so.
Okay. So, Rob, you did check into it already?
Yeah, on the email, the link, the registration.
Mhm. Oh, I
it had
realized
all
you're
that
right.
on there,
Uh-huh.
the prices and whatnot, so, but I think it was 2 or 3 days out of town, out of state, so. Yeah, and it was suggested we send the speech, you know,
Okay.
which, that's what we want to do, we can do it, perhaps, but, they are going to a speech conference here. I'm not sure which month it's in, but, they always go, so it's right here locally, so.
When there's training on, or, you know, more
Yeah.
information.
It's this month and it's in Lexington.
Okay. So maybe we could
I mean,
reevaluate.
there's a couple of sessions, it's obviously not the focus of the whole conference, but
Right,
there are
right.
sessions that they can attend to get the information, get good information, so.
Okay. All right. Would you report back and let us know what they thought of that? Like of the training and of that, yeah? Like if they felt like it was sufficient and it was enough, or if they felt like maybe they could use more? Would that be, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Does anyone else have anything under other? I did have one more question, I forgot, it was for preschool. I've had a lot of questions, there's a lot of buzz going on. One question, out of district, how is that going to be handled?
If I could, at our work session in February,
Okay.
we're gonna present the board
Okay.
with a plan/proposal
Okay,
on how we're gonna handle a myriad of issues
okay,
associated with our preschool. So that'll be the focus of our work session in February.
okay, well then I'll wait for the other questions.
And I can send you just kind of a statement that we've kind of been putting out there as far as we have had a lot of questions with that. So
Yeah.
I can, you know, we're putting the same word out every time somebody gets that, so.
Okay.
We'll get it after you guys take a look at it and do kind of a deeper dive into it and make the decisions, then we'll get it out publicly.
Okay, good, because there were several, but I'll wait till February. Thank you, I appreciate that. Anything else? Moving on to audience of citizens. Is there anyone on that? I forgot to grab it. No? Okay. I thought maybe someone would want to speak. Moving into the recommended board motions. First, the approval of the minutes.
I'll make it.
First by Mr. Turner. Discussion? Is there a second?
Oh, yeah.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussion? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next, approve the order to the treasurer, the bills.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion?
I just wanted to say thanks for the detailed information and the answering the questions. The processing fee was interesting to learn exactly what that was, so.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, government cheese, that kind of stuff, we
Right.
have to pay them to cut it up into our chunk, you know? So,
Yep, it made a lot of sense.
weird stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 draft budget.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions?
I just wanted, real quick to say, nothing has changed since we went over this 2 weeks ago. I didn't have really any questions after that meeting, but if you have any, I'm happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, it's the same. And well, it'll change quite a bit, obviously, between now and May, but that's what happens with these, so.
Any other questions? Is there a second? Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approval of pay application 8 from Morel Construction for the Walton Verona Early Childhood Center.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle. Discussion or questions? Second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approval of construction bids for the Walton Verona paving project and award contract to Rigler Blacktop Incorporated.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle. Discussion or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the revised BG1 for the Walton Verona paving project.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of field trips.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussion, questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 SFCC KBTS offer of assistance.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019 Comprehensive District Improvement Plan.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the amendment to the 2018-2019 school calendar.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
I'll be honest, I have not seen it.
I'll say I'm
Last
pulling
time
it
I
up
looked
now.
today, it wasn't posted.
I'm pulling it up
so.
now. So what,
Yeah, it was posted this morning, or at least by this morning. That's all.
February 18th has been added, and then I think it's 3 days.
I looked at 11 and it wasn't there when I looked.
just, so we're just going back to February 18th?
We're approving one to school on February 18th as a makeup day.
Okay.
Is the closing day changing?
It will.
Yes.
We're not really focused on that right now though, because,
I think
we do that in March.
In the calendar update, there's 3 days in May.
We'll still have a few more. Was it first? Somebody made it first.
Heather made the first.
Here we
I'll
go.
make the second.
Second by Kyle.
This whole thing's messing me up.
Yes.
It's already here. I'm like,
All in favor? 4, all opposed? 1. Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, hold on a second. Who was the no? I've got problems here.
David.
David, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next is adopt a resolution authorizing the Walton Verona Independent School Finance Corporation to issue revenue bonds.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
Present information.
Yep.
Sure.
My name's Lincoln Bynett from Russell Blair. I've met most of you guys. Colleague Mr. Strong here, who looks like some of you may know.
Just dawned on me, I did another draft budget in 14 years tonight. Stuff up smooth.
Let's see, so our goal tonight is just to make you comfortable with your current project, which you previously approved the DG1. It will require a bond issue in the amount of $2,995,000 to fund the project. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. So turn to page 1. This lists all of your outstanding debt obligations. Each column represents a separate bond issue. I will point out column D jumps out at me. As your fiscal agent, it's our responsibility to always be looking at all of your outstanding bonds and watch the interest rate environment in the market and come to you at the earliest opportunity if you should have any outstanding debt that would be subject to refinance. Typically, there's a 10-year call protection. It's a protection to the investor that says we can't refinance those bonds for a period of 10 years. The 2009 would be the next eligible issue, should interest rates stay where they're at or decrease a little bit, that we may be coming back with an opportunity to save money. We skip all the way over to column L. You'll see the far right column, you'll see that for approximately the next 7 years, the sum of your debt obligations each fiscal year is $1,675,000 and change before dropping down, just going on down the time. How are you currently paying for all this? We'll turn to page 2. Again, slow me down if I'm skipping over, but column B, this is your local nickel, which is of course 5 cents per $100 of assessed property value. This represents $329,009. Here at Walton Independent, you also have a growth nickel in column C, which is an equivalent amount. Column D is a 6.5 cent equivalent, which historically you guys have made available from general fund to building fund purposes. Haven't always had to use that full amount, but it is on record that your authorized KDU recognizes you contributing that amount and bonding that amount as needed. We'll see how much of that's needed here shortly. But that would represent $427,711 if we contributed the full amount. Column E, your capital outlay, this is simply $100 per unit of average daily attendance. And because it doesn't sound like decreasing ADA is going to be a problem here in the next few years, but just err on the side of conservatism, we only use 80% of this capital outlay because we are issuing bonds for a 20-year term. Who knows what could happen, so we're going to be extra conservative and projection purposes. We're only using 80% of your capital outlay. Columns F and G are simply referred to as your nickel match. This is money that comes as part of the SEEK formula. Complicated calculation based on your property values and your ADA. You receive one of those for each of your nickels. Column H, the grand sum of your revenue streams, $1,833,000. If we subtract out in column I your current obligations, we're left with column J. In essence, that's what you're walking into your local bank to say, this is my revenue stream, how big of a house can I buy? To that we add column K, which is an offer of assistance from the School Facilities Construction Commission. Every 2 years, you get an additional offer of assistance from the SFCC. Column L is the total funds available that you have, total net funds available that you have to work with. You'll turn to page 3. I have modeled a very conservative estimate of what your principal and interest payments would be on this $2,995,000 bond issue. The principal payments shown in column C, interest in column E, total in column F. I don't want to have to come back before you and say, sorry, I wasn't conservative enough, interest rates have jumped up. So I've built in, there could be big breaking news headlines that cause interest rates to go up and you're still going to be safe with these estimates. Jump all the way over to bar column K. Again, in this scenario, we're assuming that the full 6.5 cent equivalent of general funds is contributed. You would have left over after this project, the first 5 years or so, approximately $50,000 per year, plus that 20% of capital outlay that we kind of held back. That $50,000 per year, even though as you look farther down that column, you see some really big numbers farther down there. It's kind of like, it's exactly like your home mortgage. You pay a larger amount of interest in the early years than you do principal. And so, if we look at column K and we say, how much bonding capacity do we have left after this project? Your you're limited because of those small amounts in the first few years. Even if you dedicated all of that $50,000 to interest only, you could still only rear load so much principal. So your bonding capacity will be $500,000 to $600,000 immediately after we sell this project. Depending on how conservative I was, it could be up to $1 million. Two things I want to point out. Every 2 years, there's an additional offer of assistance from the SFCC. And in addition, the FSPK, those nickel match collars. It's amazing, especially if you have steady to increasing ADA. Every 2 years, historically, the General Assembly has increased the formula for the FSPK. That can be a very powerful addition to your bonding capacity that would allow us to access some of these bigger numbers of monies available down farther down the line. If we had some bigger numbers in the first 5 years to pay the interest, we could rear load and really get some good bonding potential. So if you ever hear the term bonded out, that's a temporary thing because you're.
And Wigan and I were talking about, like, I think every project we've done since I've been here 12 years, which seems like it's about 38 projects, we've been quote bonded out on just about every one of them. When we did this, we're sitting in here now, we're bonded out. When we did the preschool, we were bonded out with, and that was a year ago. So don't, like, the purpose of that is just, as we continue to grow, we'll have money when we get there to do the projects we need to do.
Questions? There's a lot real quick. So we hope to sell bonds. We have a date scheduled 3 weeks from today. I hope to report some very good interest. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Lincoln. Any questions? Is there a second on the motion? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Stacy, did you say yes? Okay, sorry, couldn't see. Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval to enter into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8071C, discussions of proposal or pending litigation against or on behalf of a public agency.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. We are entering into executive session. Thank you guys for attending. You guys will use the restroom, right?
So is blue ready?
Oh, all right.
When it's red, it's recording, just so that you know, all
Yeah.
that red is recording. Okay.
We're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:57. First will be the recommended board motions. First is adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Any discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion, okay, passes 5-0. Next is adjournment.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 9:57. Passes me.
I'll end on a much lighter note. I saw a thing on